was your father? How was his state of mind?
Well, he wasn't like some. He hadn't been in the front line. He wasn't an infantryman. He was on heavy attack guns, you know. So he was always, when he went into North Africa, he went up at the front end because he went there to protect Alexandria and Cairo, the ports. And then when they invaded Sicily, he was behind the thing to support when they landed on Sicily. Then he was brought back here, protecting Southampton and the south coast. Then, as soon as Antwerp was captured, a port, they went to Antwerp then, and he was at Antwerp in the Christmas of 1944, when the Battle of the Bulge was on. He was one of the first to be demobbed after the war because he was 30 odd when he joined up, you know. So he never got as far as Germany. He brought back virtually in early 1945, and then he was demobbed. He came home and went back to work at the Yorkshire Diamond Proofing Company on Spring Vale. But they were very busy after the war, so he worked 7 days a week, you know. So it was very seldom did he have a lot of time off. And the first holiday we had with him properly as a family would be about 1949, 48, 49. And we went, my uncle had a converted railway carriage at Gronant near Prestatyn. And we went there for our holidays. But in them days, we had to send the bedding, food and everything by British Rail to the campsite. We put it in boxes here. You rang the Middleton station, they sent somebody for it, put it on a train, sent it to Prestatyn, and it was delivered to the camp for when we got there.
Well, that saves dragging it all with you, doesn't it?
Well, they were tea chests full of sheets and food, because you had to take all your own food with you, naturally, because they were still rationing in them days.
Course, yeah.
And then when we were coming home, we packed everything, left it at the camp office, they put it on the train, and it was delivered back here a few days after we got home.
Can you imagine doing that now?
Well, we haven't got a station.
You'd never see your stuff again.
We haven't got a station anymore.
No,
which was it was a very busy little station, Middleton, because one of my ambitions, the evening train used to come in with the newspapers, and all the paper lads from the paper shops were at the station waiting for it to take the papers back to the paper shops. And that was my ambition, to be a paper lad, so I could do that. But I got a job at Alkington Post Office, and they had theirs delivered by van. So I didn't have that. But I used to watch them when we were kids, you know, and all fighting one another to get the papers first and back to the shops, and then they were saying. But I had a good job at Alkington Post Office. You had to be in them days 12, and you had to have a medical before you could do papers. But there was no restrictions. You could, like there is now, they can't start before a certain time. I had mornings and a night round, 6 days a week.
And this was at 12?
12, yeah. And I got 7 and 6 a week. So it's 15 shillings a week for the Saturday, from Monday to Saturday mornings and evenings. And then if I did Sundays, that was extra, you know. And
so you were a breadwinner at 12?
Well, I used to contribute, yeah. Because by then I got another brother then, you know. So there was 3 of us then. And my mum didn't work. It was only my dad. So yeah, I was contributing, yeah. And I could, my mum let me have a bit of it back, but I used to let her have much. She took most of it. But I could keep my Christmas tips. Because at Christmas you used to go around all your customers, you know, and asking for tips. And I used to do quite well.
So with that in mind, I'm interested, at what point do you think you noticed that economic recovery had begun? Because I know there was rationing for a long time.
Well, there was rationing until 1953.
Yeah.
But it was gradually getting better and better. I mean, it was worse after the war than during the war.
Things don't magically appear, do they?
No, I mean, it was a lot worse. There was, I think the thing became rationed after the war that weren't rationed during the war. I mean, even fuel was rationed. You could only have so many bags of coal.
Do you think people's motivations to provide for themselves slipped a bit when they weren't under the pressure of war?
Oh yeah, I mean, as I say, we supported my mum and me, the garden supported us, all our vegetables, and my auntie and gran in Salford. Every week we went down there with potatoes and cabbages and lettuces and everything for them. Yeah. And one problem was, in the war, you had to register with shops. You couldn't go to any shop. You had to go to register with a grocer and a greengrocer and a butcher. And we never went to the greengrocers on Mount Road because we didn't need to do. One day, oranges had come, which were as rare as hen's teeth. My mum went down to get my oranges and they wouldn't serve her because we weren't customers. She said, well, we don't need to do, we've been growing our own veg for years, you know. But she did get them for me in the end, yeah, but it was like that. And then 1947 was a very, very bad winter, the worst winter we've had for God knows how long. And you only got, I think it was only 2 bags of coal a week, or a bag of coal. So you used to implement that by going to the gasworks for coke, which you could get coke. You had to take your own transport, and they gave you a bag full of coke or something, which implemented, yeah, which helped with the coal, yeah. But no, and then at school, there was none of this going home because it was cold. I mean, that winter went from Christmas to probably April. And when they ran out of fuel, there was no sending you home. You did your lessons with your coat on, your gloves on, your balaclava on, and you did, every so often, you had to do exercise in the classroom to warm up. Yeah, yeah.
So do you have clear memories of when that stopped being so much of an issue?
Yeah, well, things did, towards the end of the 40s, things were getting better. Except sweets, because they were one of the very last few things to come off ration, sweets. You could get off the ration sweets on the market, but they were rubbish. You know, but the proper sweets, the rationing thing, and 1 or 2 other things, was 1953, I think it was, yeah.
So
when
what age were you when you got hold of some decent sweets then?
Well, 1937 I was born, so 47 I'd be 10, 50. I'd be 30, about 14, 15 before we got proper sweet. I mean, you could have sweets during the war, but you couldn't have as many as you... No. You'd only could have, say, a quarter to last a fortnight or a week or whatever the ration was, what they said it was. But you had the selection. You could go into any sweet shop and say, can I have some of those, can I have some of those, which had been unheard of, you know.
And of course you were a boy of your own means.
Oh, I did have a bit of money, yeah, because Ogdenton Post Staff paid the best in those days. Most only got 10 shillings a week if they did mornings and nights, yeah.
So you were like the proverbial kid in the sweet shop.
Yeah, oh, yeah, especially when you went to the children's matinee, you know, yeah, which was that was a fabulous on the Saturday afternoons at the Empire Cinema. You know, that was fantastic, that, you know. Yeah. All them hundreds of kids milling about, you know, queuing up an hour before the thing started, yeah.
And what would you have been going to see then?
In those days it would be cartoons. There was films from America which were the Bowery Boys, another fella, comedian, Joey Dokes, the Three Stooges, plushy cartoons, but they weren't as sophisticated as they are now. It was early Mickey Mouse ones and things like that. Yes. And then there was the movie, the Western. It's always a Western usually. And then it was the serial, you know, that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, Zorro and Zorro. There was one or two, I can't remember them all now. Yeah, there was probably the Lone Ranger, but yeah. And yeah, you sat with your mates, you know. But being a lad of means, I used to go in the balcony. It was only 9p up there, 6p downstairs, 9p upstairs.
A little bit of luxury.
A bit of luxury. Plus the fact you could drop things down on the kid below off the balcony. Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much sweets. It was sweet wrappers. And you, as you dropped it, it went through the beam, and you went on the screen. Then all like snow coming down, you know, which upset the management. So then, you know, the torches had come out then. Who did that and who did this? Yeah. And then naturally, the cinemas were very big in Middleton. We had 3: the Palace, the Empire, and the Victory. Now the Victory at night and the Empire were linked. So they'd have a newsreel on at the Empire, and then it used to be rushed across to the Victory, because it was the same owner had the 2. Now the Palace was a different one. He was independent of those.
Was it unusual to have that many cinemas, or was that typical?
No. Middleton had 3, but they didn't play on a Sunday. But the Victoria Avenue cinema was Sunday, so we all went there on a Sunday. Or we went to the Four Ways, or the Sintra, which is in Harper Hay. And there was one on Factory Lane at Moston Lane. I can't remember what that one's called. But so if we'd seen the film that was on at the Avenue, we'd go to either to Four Ways or the Sintra, the other one, you say, yeah. They'd have something different on. And in them days, they always finished at 9:30, the films on a Sunday. They started an hour earlier. I think it was 5:30 and then we'd all walk home from the Avenue, or even the Sintra. You could save bus fare, you see. And we'd all walk to Middleton to the Temperance Bars on Long Street, either the bottom Temperance Bar, which I think is that Masquerade, the fancy dress place. I think that's it. Or there was one at the top. And that was the day then they'd got jukeboxes, which was this marvellous invention from America where you could listen to records. You see, these Temperance Bars were actually herbalists downstairs selling hot Vimto, sarsaparillas and cordial drinks. They were, again, for people who didn't drink, they used to go there. And they also sold herbs, because in those days, up to 1948, you had to buy your medicines, you had to pay the doctor. There was no national health. And people couldn't afford doctor and things, so they went to the herbalist and bought herbs for colds and coughs and things like that. And that was all downstairs, but the bottom temp on Long Street, he opened upstairs and it was a coffee bar, espresso coffee, not this little cups you get now, big frothy coffee. It was all milk, hot water, steam, and it can make it last an hour and a half, one of them. And you put money in the jukebox and heard all these marvellous 45s, these records of the day.
What age would you be now then?
I'd be, I was at the grammar school in them days, so I'd be about 14.
So was that really your first introduction to popular music?
Oh yeah, because I mean, up to then, there was no top 20, but there was a list, but it was sheet music, not records, the sales of sheet music. And on Marketplace, there was a large shop that sold sheet music, and it was all in the window, yeah. Yeah, that's what everybody had in them days, yeah.
Yeah, I had quite a few. My grandparents gave them. They're just a single page.
Yeah, just one song on, yeah. And people bought them, you know, to learn the words or to play if you could play, and a lot of people could play a piano in them days, you know, because people had pianos in their own houses and things like that, yeah. And then it was a quick home for Radio Luxembourg, because they'd started then doing this top 10. So all us young teenagers rushed home to get Radio Luxembourg and our little radios, yeah. And so it was.
So what What was the first music you were aware of then? Who would be the first kind of artists you were singing?
Well, it would. I mean, it was a bit just before. Well, it was mostly American. You know, I can't remember what they are. Like, you know, your Frankie Lanes and your Johnny Ray and people like that. You see that, and then gradually, Elvis started coming on the scenes. You know, and then you got Bill Haley and all the rock and roll bands. Yeah.
So as you got old enough for the dances and things, had the music changed?
Oh, it had all changed. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It was Middleton Baths was dancing in the winter. It was the baths in the summer, and they covered the pool over. And there were big dances every Saturday night. Glenn Gray's orchestra, a local lad, he played there, and they were smashing those big dances. I mean,